completely different game.
Yeah.
How did Croatia manage to wrestle back control?
Well, I think the only way you can control a match is through midfield, right? And the midfielders can dictate the pace of the game. I think England ran out of steam in the second half because they are the type of team that don't have a Modric. They have a Henderson who's a million miles away from it, who can't slow the game down. So they were a bit like mini Liverpool, go, 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 right? But when they got the goal, for example, the goals dictate games, they say. So if you're a midfield player, like Modric had been playing for England, he would have slowed the game down here, there, everywhere, slowed the game down and maybe scored another goal. Whereas the second half, they had nobody to do what Modric can do. And I think at half-time, to be quite honest, when they got in, I think they were intimidated by England in the first half. The reputation of England, the clubs that the teams played for, or wherever it might be. I think we were intimidated by them, Nathan. So when they got in at half-time, whether it was the players or the manager, and I think the manager's good, he doesn't panic in any way, said to him, what's wrong? What are you doing? These guys are not that good. Or the players themselves, it could be Modric who's a player. Look, lads, come on, we got to play. These fellas are not so good. So they actually started playing. You wouldn't know I thought at half-time England would win 2 or 3-0. Coming into the second half, they were a different team altogether. And then England, for the first time in the competition, are put under pressure to defend. Because when they played the likes of Tunisia and some of the other, Panama, for example, they didn't have to do that. So this was the first test they had of a team getting at them at the back, and they couldn't manage it. So, like Croatia, no doubt, went on deservedly to win it. Now, that's my take on how it happened. They don't have a midfield player. They don't have a Modric. They couldn't control the game, and I think it was a hot night as well. They actually ran out of steam. Whereas Croatia, with just here, there, Modric doing it, Rakitic doing it, could control the game and the pace of the game. So, like that's how I think Croatia. I tipped England to win. I thought England would beat them last night, but again, it came back to haunt them that they don't have a midfield, an established midfield. You know, they have all the players, Dele Alli and Sterling, and like we talked about the first match, they were all in front of the ball. So when it came time to control it last night, they ran out of steam. Croatia didn't run out of steam, actually. They were quite strong in the end and were better than I expected them to be up front. But it was the first time that the English defence was put under pressure, and they didn't defend very well. I mean, for the second goal, you know, Stones wasn't good, Walker wasn't good for the first goal. It's the first time they've been put under pressure, though, Nathan. You know, they got a great draw, and they got a good bit of luck along the way. Now, obviously, they had to do their stuff. Yeah. But they didn't really play. They definitely didn't play anybody. I mean, they got Sweden, they got Colombia, they went on to penalties, we know. Sweden were hopeless. So they got a good run into that side of the draw until they came up against a big competition. I think Croatia were intimidated and then got a grip of the game and went on to deservedly win it.
So a few things on that there. So the first half, and so much of the talk ahead of the game was about Luka Modric and whether England can somehow find a way of stopping Modric running the show. And it felt in the first half as if they did that he wasn't able to get on the ball. He wasn't the dominant player on the pitch.
He wasn't dominant, Nathan, but he got on the ball more than anybody else. Because the rest of the Croatian team didn't play well at all. But he did his stuff as well as he could do it under the circumstances. And England didn't mark him. They didn't put him out of the game. He obviously wasn't able to get on the ball as much or be as incisive with his passing and that in the first. But he actually did try to get on the ball and got onto it a fair amount. But the rest of the team were over. They were, I don't know what it was. I think they were intimidated by the English reputation. I don't think he was. But in the second half, when the others copped on, then he came into his own, as he would do, because you'd only play as well as the players you have playing around you. But he was always playing well. He was getting on, he was taking responsibility. England were the better team in the first half, no doubt. But it wasn't for the want of trying and Modric and trying to do the right things. So when the second half came around, and his colleagues, I think, realised, these guys are not that good.
And he actually gets a calmness in the dressing room.
Exactly. Now, it might have been him, it might have been him. And the manager looks good to me. It's hard to know what's going on in the dressing room. But he looks a very, very calm lad. He never seems to get excited about anything. So somebody did it in the dressing room, in my opinion. Modric would be the leading player. Right? He wouldn't... See, he played in England for quite a few years, you know. He wouldn't be intimidated by the reputation of these particular players. I think some of the other Croatians were. I don't know whether it was the manager or Modric, but somebody, I think, said to him at half-time, look, these guys are not that good. If we get playing, we can do these guys. And they started to believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, you're not going to do it. But second half, they played really well. And Modric was absolutely outstanding at that particular time.
Yeah, that sort of experience, and I'm wondering if that maybe England were lacking that at half-time. So Modric has won 4 of the last 5 Champions League. He knows what these sort of big occasions, he knows that you find yourself in trouble in quarterfinals and semi-finals, and you need to figure it out on the spot.
Yeah.
Is that what you saw in that second half, that actually Modric, Rakitic, who's won titles with Barcelona, that those more senior players were able to say, well, I figured it out on the pitch. Now we just need to get the other 8-9 guys on the same wavelength.
Somebody said at half-time, I assume it was Modric, because he'd be a senior player and the leading player, would actually say, look, we can do these guys, because he was playing okay. It was the rest of them that were down in it. And I think it would be, right, let's go, let's play as best we can. And you see, and England had nobody to respond to that.
Was there anything England could have done to stop Modric in the second half?
Well, they should have man-marked him from the start. Anyway, I think...
So you sacrifice Ali or Lingard or...
Well, Henderson. I mean, Henderson's no sacrifice. If you put him on Modric, to put Modric out of the game. They didn't do that at all. So when the second half started, and it was a clammy night, it wasn't easy to play, and they got on top doing what they did, they had nobody in the England team to say, in the middle of the field particularly, because you got Lingard, you got Dele Alli, and none of these are capable of doing that, to say, look, we've got to get a grip of this game. Henderson can't, doesn't want to, doesn't know how to, right? So then they take over. So they'd nobody to back up England, the go, that they played against the other inferior teams. When it came to the crunch of, this is a game, now we're in a game, they couldn't respond to it. And they responded poorly to it, because in Modric's case, if you put Modric in the England team, see when they went one in front, it'd be a little ball here, a little bit of ball, especially in the second half when you come under pressure. Get a grip of the ball. The best way to take pressure off the team is to get possession of the ball yourself. England had nobody to do that. So they're running around all over the place, and they're getting tired. They got really tired, England, in the second half, whereas Modric controlled the game, and that's what the good midfield players do. They can slow it down. England had nobody to slow it down at all.
Did they have anybody in the squad capable of slowing it down?
No. Like we spoke about this before, I'd say that there isn't a midfield player like Modric around the way, especially in the Premiership. The nearest would have been Wilshere. And he wouldn't be great at it, but at least he could get on the ball and hold the ball and do something on it. But England had nobody. And again, it goes back to the first match, Nathan, when we did it. And I was always sceptical about England in the way, first of all, he'd never done it before. So he was on a wing and a prayer in doing that. And I think I said to you at the time, if we go back on it, I've never seen a team be successful in a big tournament without having an established midfield. And I think around the pitch generally, England would have better players than Croatia had, except for that crucial area in the middle field with Modric and Rakitic.
So was that then, when you look at the tournament as a whole from England's point of view, was that always going to be the difficulty for Gareth Southgate, that when he looked at the hand he was dealt in terms of the talent available, that he looked at the attacking players and thought, we've got a good bit there with Ali, Lingard, Vardy, Kane, Sterling, I don't have anything in midfield, I'm going to have to front load it? Or could he have done something different?
Well, he did. If you go back to the Belgium game, for example, he played 3 in midfield. They have Loftus-Cheek, who wasn't a very good player. I think they had Dyer and they had Delph. Now they're not the great, but Delph could play a bit. You know, on the left hand side of the field, he could play a bit. And I don't know who he didn't pick any midfield players anyway. But I think Wilshere could have done a job for him. Now I know Wilshere is injury prone and all the various things, but they didn't have much choice in it. But you could play somebody in there. At least you'd have like Liverpool don't have much of a midfield, right? In terms of the personnel, they got Henderson, who's a common denominator to that. They had
Oxlade-Chamberlain or Chan.
Yeah, they were not great midfield, but they did have Wijnaldum. They did have midfield players. None of them were great at getting, but they did have these. England had none. And if you look at it, Dele Alli's up in front of the ball, Sterling's up in front of the ball, Lingard is up in front of the ball, Kane's up in front of the ball. I mean, that's the way they set up at the start of the match. Now, when you're playing against Panama, and I know I'm repeating myself a bit here, Panama and Tunisia, you have them on the back foot all the time. So your defenders, actually, who hadn't been tested at all, didn't have to do anything. Last night they did, and they didn't do it very well. right? Midfield, they were overrun. Like, there's no doubt, Croatia in the second half were the better team. And they were a goal down.
I don't know if you saw Luka Modric's comments after the game. He felt that maybe England were a touch arrogant heading into the game, that they were looking ahead to a final already. They were writing off Croatia. And it does feel as though somehow Luka Modric is still underappreciated at times. That if England were playing Portugal or Argentina in the semi-final, they would have been taking account of Messi or Ronaldo, and all the talk would be, how do you try and man-mark him out of the game? Yeah. Whereas, for some reason, they allowed probably the best midfielder of the last 5-10 years run the show.
Yeah. I'm amazed at it. I think they should have. I thought they could have put Henderson. I don't know what he's any good at man marking, but he wouldn't have been a loss as far as the constructive play was concerned. Put him on Modric because it's the most obvious thing. But they didn't do that. Like Modric, even in the first half, he played okay. The rest of the team didn't. But the second half, and he has been in the whole tournament because he's the best in the world at what he does. Nathan, there's no doubt about that. But he wouldn't be spectacular. As you say, when in playing for Real Madrid, he'd be overshadowed because Ronaldo's scoring spectacular goals. But they wouldn't be able to do it without him doing his stuff. But England had nobody, even in them, not even a Chan or any of the ordinary midfield players, like Liverpool have, in the team. None. And again, I go back to what we said at the start. I think I've never seen a team actually win a big trophy without having a midfield, a regular midfield. It was a wing on a prayer.
A one-man midfield.
And you'd have to say, and nobody likes saying it, I mean, there's no doubt that Southgate was lucky. He was lucky. Now, he controlled things well. I think we said one time, I said to you, he's controlled things off the pitch really, really well. I wouldn't be so sure what has happened on the pitch. And you have to give him credit for what he did. But they did beat Panama, they did beat Tunisia, they won on penalties against Colombia and then Sweden. So all the teams, you couldn't have made the draw better. Like you've got Spain, Germany, Portugal, Argentina. About three of them, at their best, like could have been in that draw. They weren't because they didn't do their stuff. But that's the way England was left. Now that's luck. But the first time they were tested was last night, and they failed on it.
All right, we'll take a very quick break. 53106 is the number. John Giles is in studio. We're going to talk France and look ahead to the final next.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Bruce Betting are one of Ireland's leading bookmakers. Download the iOS app today to see why Bruce Betting are giving you more for World Cup 2018. Bruce Betting, your World Cup bookmaker. In store, online, and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
So many cars look the same. Do you want to drive a car that looks different? A car that feels different? All Mazdas are designed with the Japanese philosophy of Jimba Atai, making them the perfect harmony of driver and car. And right now, you can avail of incredible offers across the range, like a €4,000 summer bonus. Visit your local Mazda retailer and experience the difference. Mazda. Drive together. Terms and conditions apply.
It's our biggest sale event of the year. Visit the Casey's Furniture Summer Sale. Up to 50% off all departments. And hot summer savings across living, dining, bedding and flooring. All in the quality you'd expect from Casey's. With fast delivery nationwide, browse and buy in-store in Cork and Limerick and 24/7 on caseys.ie.
This week at M&S, indulge in a delicious dine-in for two with a main, side, dessert and a bottle of wine for just €14. M&S. Spend it well. Terms, conditions and exclusions apply, subject to availability. Over 18s only. Please drink responsibly. See in-store for details.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back. Thursday night football with John Giles. We're looking ahead to the World Cup final. We've been talking about Croatia and their deserved victory against England. So you started this conversation talking about France and how you fancy them for the final, but an awful lot depends on Paul Pogba.
Yeah.
It was seen by a lot of people as one of his finest performances, the game against Belgium. A different type of Pogba, not the flash, but solid, disciplined, a reflection in some ways of exactly what Didier Deschamps wants from a footballer and what he was himself.
Yeah, what everybody wants from him. Be a pro. Be a professional. Go out and do the job. Never mind about the dances and the haircuts and all the various things. And I know that's social media, and I'm an old-timer, so I've no time for this. You get more recognition doing it as a real player than doing the the Twitter stuff. Now, you know what I mean? But you can see it in his head. He's like, I don't know how many followers he has on it. And he is a young player, and he's a young fella. I'm not a young fella. That has been more influential in his career than actually going out to play. And that's why Mourinho was on to him at Manchester United. He was doing flicking here and having his haircut and all the various things that goes with that. The other day, the first time I saw him playing as a pro, he got back, he was heading the ball away, he got on the ball, he wasn't messing around, he was giving it. He was a real player the other night. He has the ability, as we know, but it's getting his priorities right as to play professionally rather than all the stuff that goes on around the game. But if he does his stuff like he did the other night, and hopefully the penny's dropped, maybe Deschamps has gone on to him. I don't think Mourinho did it in the right way with him when he was chastising him, if that's the right word in this day. But to get him to play like he played the other night, which was good, he got a couple of headers away when he had to defend. He got on the ball. He helped Kante. Right? I think if he plays the way he can play, and he played the other night, Kante and him will be better or as good as Modric and Rakitic. And if they can match them, definitely France have better all-round players.
Right. This then, I fear for Paul Pogba, that performance may end up being a stick to beat him with for the rest of the season, because there's no more excuses now for Pogba. He's shown actually that he can put in that type of performance, that he can put everything to one side and just do a job.
Exactly, Nate, as he should be doing. That's what he's paid for. You know, he probably makes a fortune on Twitter as well, but his main job is football. Get out on the pitch, and there's nothing better than getting the recognition for being a terrific player rather than a terrific personality or a controversial personality. Go and play. I mean, people saying, well, he's 24. Like, he should have a good career behind him in that, instead of everybody saying, oh, he can do this and on his day and everything else. You know, great players don't have on their days. They do the best they can in every game they play, and they're professional. He did it the other day. Now, there's no doubt he played really well the other day. He was controlled. He didn't get into any trouble. He wasn't doing any flicks. He got back a couple of times to get headers away when it needed to be done, and got forward at the right time. If he just play like that, with that attitude, again, I would make France firm favourites if he's doing that along with Kante in the middle of the field.
If you're a Manchester United supporter watching that and you're wondering how they can replicate that throughout the season and also keep him happy, can you be a different type of player in different games? Can you say to Pogba, when you're playing Manchester City, when you're playing Champions League games, that's what we're looking for, that's the discipline? But yeah, there will be times during the season where you can do the other stuff.
No, but you have to do it week in and week out, Nathan. You know, all the great players, if you go back at Messi and all these great players over the years, Messi doesn't pick a game to play well in. He does the best he can in every game. Some games he doesn't play so well for certain circumstances, but not for the want of trying and being professional. Most of the games he plays great, because he's a real pro. He plays for his playing, he plays for his fellow players, he plays for his team. You never question Messi's approach or attitude, you know. But Pogba's attitude up to now has been, in my opinion, outrageous. What he's been trying to do, a flick here and a flick there, and he's more interested in doing the dance after a goal and all the celebrations that goes with it, because that's what the people enjoy. A lot of young people on social media. But everybody wants, and he'd make a better. He goes out on the pitch and does it where he's supposed to do it, where he's paid to do it, and become a real player. Now we'll have to wait and see. But all the real players put the same effort in to every match they play. This is their living. This is what they want to do. This is what makes them great players. You can't pick your game. You can't say, well, I'll play well today, or I'll try hard today, but this is an easy match. You don't get a consistency that breeds champions if you do that. And Messi, I'm only saying Messi as a modern example, has won all the trophies and is still hungry to win trophies. So it's a big if. It's a big if. This is the final of the cup, but Deschamps might have got a grip of him. I think there was some.
That's what I was wondering, when you were watching him on Tuesday night and you were watching his movement and being that more disciplined, tracking runs back, getting headers on the edge of his own area, did you sense you were looking at a guy who was following instruction from his coach?
Yes.
Or that had suddenly taken upon himself to change?
I think there was an influence there. I think what's happened with him at Manchester United, I think despite what he was doing was wrong, I think Mourinho handled it badly because he made it public. He took him off of matches. Remember, now that's humiliating him. So you're ruining his confidence totally. Instead, all the criticism should be between you and the player, right? So Deschamps has a right go at him, right? In private, nobody knows about that. So you're not running him down, you know? Like, I think what Mourinho should have got him at some stage, very quietly, say, look, this is what I want you to do. You have to do it. If you're not going to, but nobody knows about it. He took him off against Spurs, didn't he? Humiliated him. Dropped him for a few matches, put him on, took him off. That's humiliating him. That's not the way to treat. Now, he would think, I'm treating him a lesson, giving him a lesson, in this. And it might well come out in the paper, knowing Mourinho, that he's responsible for his good form. That wouldn't surprise me. But it definitely hasn't. I think he made Pogba worse because whatever confidence he had was drifted away, was taken away as well. Whereas Deschamps probably, because remember there was a bit of a hurly-burly the other day, and he was getting involved in it on near the touchline, and Deschamps had him on his own, and he was sort of giving him, you don't get involved in that. And he went as quiet as a mouse then. So Deschamps obviously has an influence on him, and it'd be the right him. So what Deschamps will be saying to him, you did it the other day, just do the same again. That's all I'm asking of you. Do it the same. Go out, do your best. Never mind all the tricky stuff. Just get on with the job. So we'll wait and see, Nathan. You know, I'd be fascinated now seeing, is he going to respond in the right way, or is he going to go back to the old Pogba with the Twitter and the social media?
The World Cup final, now's the time to shine.
Are we going to see the real pro? Are we going to see the social media hero again? That's my take on it for the final.
One thing he doesn't have at Manchester United is an N'Golo Kante alongside him, on the left, on the right, in behind him. Seems to be absolutely everywhere. And we talk about Modric being underappreciated, and Kante, everyone knows he's a great player, but he's helped Leicester to a title, he's helped Chelsea to a title. He seems to have that level of professionalism, that level of consistency. He's
terrific. He's terrific now. I love him. He's honest as the day is long. He doesn't create a fuss. He goes for the ball. He doesn't foul players. He doesn't get involved. He just gets on with the game. He's a real pro. And that's what Pogba has to be. Just the same as, because, you see, he plays in the middle of the field, Kante, as we know. So you've got Pogba as an assistant, as it were. In Manchester United, Pogba is supposed to be the boss. He can't do it. He's not able to do it. I think Manchester United made a big mistake when they didn't sign Kante at the particular time when he went to Chelsea, because he didn't go for that much money, really. Actually, Pogba,
32 million, I think.
Yeah, Pogba went for 3 times more than that. But Pogba needs, like when Pogba was at Juventus, he had his best time, right? But he had Pirlo, the master, one of the masters of midfield play, playing on that. He could do what needed him and get it out to Pogba to do what he was good at. But when Manchester United signed Pogba, they signed him as a Pirlo. He's not a Pirlo. And he's not a Kante. Now, Kante is not quite Pirlo, but he's very, very good. So if Manchester United had Kante, they could play Pogba either side of him. And if he acts in a professional way, could be the real McCoy. Could be. And he's got Kante with him now for the final of the game. That's what we're talking about, Nathan. And if he does his stuff professionally, this could be the winning of it for France.
Kante still seems to be underestimated in how good he can be on the ball as well. That maybe we're guilty now when we analyse football of pigeonholing players, and Kante is seen as a defensive midfielder. Well, he doesn't seem to have a problem skipping past a couple of tackles.
I don't see him as a... You see, what we have now is like a Dyer playing for Manchester, who's a holding midfield player, which is supposed to allow the other 2 midfield players to, which is a load of nonsense. Why are they running forward if it's not the right thing to do? Kante is a midfield player, right? He gets his tackles in. His distribution is quite good. He's not bad at it, and so he can do both. He's a midfield player. I don't believe in attacking midfield players and the holding midfield player. They're midfield players. I mean, I've seen Dyer playing for England, and he could be. I've never seen a player actually walk as much, but the fullback is on the ball, and he could slip into a lovely position to receive it. No, doesn't want it. Henderson's the same. Doesn't want it, right? Because he's a holding midfield player. They don't want to take the responsibility. Actually, the best way of doing it, if they did, I got the ball like Modric does, inside, connects it. Now you're getting at the. You don't have to defend. I mean, the only time a defensive midfield player comes into the ball is when one of his colleagues loses the ball. But sometimes they're responsible for the colleague losing the ball because they don't go and support him. But then people say, you see, if he hadn't been there, they would have been on the attack. But if he'd done what he should have done, got up to level, but they'd be on the attack instead, so we wouldn't have to be doing the defence. Anyway, that's getting complicated. But I think Kante does both. He does both. He's not a spectacular going forward, but he gets there. His passing is good enough to link it up, you know. But his all-round game, getting back, he only sees the ball. As honest as the day, he's terrific. He's terrific. So if Pogba could just do that bit beside him to help him with a bit of flair as well. Now you've got the ideal partnership.
So your prediction then, and by the sounds of it, you feel that midfield battle, Rakitic and Modric against Pogba and Kante, if Pogba and Kante even get parity in that, you then have the likes of Mbappe and Griezmann who can do all sorts of damage.
After that. That's the key. That would be the key to it to me. That if Kante and Pogba can match Modric and Rakitic Rakitic in the middle of the field, then I think France have better all-round players. Anyway, you know, they've got Griezmann, they've got Mbappe.
How good is he? How good is Mbappe?
Well, he's only 19. Like, probably a little bit overhyped because of one good game, but I think he's very, very good, and it looks like he will be a top player. Right? Like, Croatia don't have those attacking type players. They just don't have them. You know, they're good players, but they don't have them. Actually, I thought they would fail the other day against England because they didn't have enough up front. And our man scored what I thought. Mandzukic. I thought he was finished, Nathan. I must be honest. That's why I fancied England before the match. I thought he was finished, but he took his goal really well. But they don't have the firepower. They definitely don't have the firepower that France have.
John, great stuff. We shall talk to you again next Thursday. Yeah. Maybe reflecting on France as world champions. Thanks a lot for coming into the studio once again.
Thanks, Nathan.
We're going to take a quick break and then we're looking ahead to the Super 8s. It all gets underway this week. We'll be joined by the Carlow manager, Turlough O'Brien, and by former Kerry player, Darragh Kineda.
Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter.
You're in Ireland's hidden heartlands, on the shores of Lough Derg, ready to take to the water. Do you pick up a paddle, kayaking your way towards Killaloo? Try a spot of fishing, catching something light for lunch. Or stick to solid ground, enjoying the view